Join Tara and Alyssa as they explore the intersection of business, lifestyle, health, and wellness. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a wellness enthusiast, or someone seeking a meaningful life, this podcast delivers insights and inspiration for living your best life, because true success is about more than just the bottom line. To stay up to date on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe and like us on our channel and follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram at The Business of Living Well. Hi guys, welcome back to The Business of Living Well. Today we sit down with Kelsey Buell. She is just such a light and such an amazing human being. I'm lucky enough to call her a friend and a mentor, and we get to talk about all things perfectionism and asking for help today.
Yeah, she kind of really dove deep into her own struggle with perfectionism and how she helps others kind of overcome, and because there is that fine line that you can ride.
Yeah.
I ride that fine line.
Yeah.
But she really kind of dove deep into like steps and delegating and trusting people. And she went into kind of her, and it was a little insight into how she coaches.
Yes.
Because that's kind of a big, that is what You Flourish is, really.
Yeah.
It's coaching other people and kind of helping them.
Yeah, she does a lot of like executive coaching and group coaching, team building. So we kind of get a little piece of that today, which was so fun.
Yeah, this is a good one to listen to. Definitely if you're feeling stuck in life or if you're struggling with perfectionism, this is a good episode to listen to.
Yeah.
So follow along.
Kelsey Buell, welcome to The Business of Living Well.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So fun.
Yes, we're excited to have you. You are always such a light. So you are the owner of You Flourish company. You are a speaker, a coach, a mom who is also expecting her second child. Yay. But one thing that really stands out about you is your passion to help people in the community and drive those around you to be better and grow themselves.
And we really appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Kelsey, obviously you do a lot in the community. You do a lot of coaching and group speaking, workshops, training and development with team building. What does it actually mean to you to flourish, since that's the name of your company? And we're in a culture right now that just glamorizes burnout, and everyone feels the need to be perfect. So how do you flourish?
Well, and as I looked at that question, I thought this is a hard one to answer, which is so sad that it's hard for me to answer because I use the word flourish all the time. But I think it's because first and foremost, it looks different for each person and each stage of life. So for me right now, flourishing is having enough energy to go to work hard, but then also having enough energy for when I get home with my family to actually be present for them and enjoy my time with them. And that is very hard to find. And so I think, again, it's so different for everyone, but I think a lot of it for me probably stems from getting enough rest, staying organized, getting some physical activity in, and really taking time to identify what do I need to prioritize so that every day I can end the day and say, did I live well today? I did. I did things in a way that I feel satisfied and at peace with what this day looked like.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like
I did not try to put your podcast name.
No, but we love it.
Play on words there.
Sorry,
yeah. Okay. No, we love it. So I feel like that's so important though, is finding a good balance between everything in life, because that's what we all, I feel like, strive for, and it's not always easy. What's kind of some routine? Do you have any routines that you've set for yourself that help you kind of keep balance within those areas?
Kara, that's a great question. I'm laughing to myself because I am the queen of brainstorming my perfect routine. And guys, for me, it doesn't exist.
Yep.
And I say that gently, kind of humorously, but yes, there are habits that I know if I implement them, I have a better day. For example, if I get up and I take some quiet time to journal, I like to do a daily devotion. And to just, even if I were to write down the top 3, what are the top 3 things, if nothing else happens today, the top 3 things that I'm going to get done, that helps me feel more on top of it from a routine standpoint. And again, I think I mentioned physical movement. That is the number one way to prevent burnout, prevent stress. And it doesn't have to be going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. It can truly be walking or even just stretching. And so I think those are the habits that I would say from a routine standpoint. I am not rigid. I am not like every single day I have to do the same thing at the same time. I think I find I personally operate better off of having a checklist and allowing myself to sometimes do those things at different times throughout the day, but just recognizing that the overall goal of my day is to drink plenty of water, take some time to plan my day, and again, make sure that I'm going to be able to be present for my family. And so I think it's really forced me to be proactive about certain things because, again, if one of my goals is to cook healthier meals and I want that to be more of a habit, I have to be really proactive of knowing what to buy for groceries and setting aside time, whether it's the morning of to thaw the chicken that I want to cook. Like there's a lot of proactivity that goes into it. Is that a word? Proactive.
It is now.
Being proactive is really important. But again, I think that it's not a one size fits all. And you just have to ask yourself, what are my non-negotiables? And how do I build a routine around that, knowing that it can't be the same every day, at least for my life. For some, it can. I think when I was younger, it was a lot easier to have a more rigid schedule.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I feel like all of that fits in with flourishing, and flourishing, like you said, looks different for everybody. And the topics that we kind of wanted to focus on today was the perfectionism aspect and the asking for help. So just kind of getting into the perfectionism right away. So you're also a musician, performer, singer. If you want to sing for us.
Just kidding. That was really
No, that was good. People would not want to hear me do that.
No, absolutely not. But okay, so you performed in front of like 20,000 people before, and you regularly speak in front of large crowds. So how does it look like for you for feeling the need to be perfect in those moments? And how have you struggled with that? And how have you gotten past that?
This is a really, really fun question. Actually, the one that I was probably most excited to answer. So I love to sing the national anthem.
Oh,
absolutely love to sing the national anthem. And it probably sounds crazy because I think 90% of people fear public speaking or being in front of a large crowd more than they fear death. And I love it. But what do you think the number one question is that I get asked when I tell people I'm singing the national anthem for something? What do you think people ask?
Like, are you afraid you're going to mess it up?
Yep.
Okay,
are you afraid you're going to mess up the words?
Yeah.
That is what, the second I say I'm singing the national anthem, are you afraid you're going to mess up the words?
That's so interesting.
It's so interesting. And what's funny is I was asked that so many times, and I would always say, no, I'm not afraid. I know the song back and forth. It's so easy. It just comes out right. Well, one time I think it was Final Four hockey tournament locally here at the Shields Arena. Got up on stage, started singing, and that one part where it goes, or the ramparts we watched were so gallantly singing, it was like, or streaming. See, I just messed up words. But it was like, or the, I like totally rambled that whole last phrase. And what was funny is I stayed on pitch.
Good.
And I kind of just like all the words
kind of flowed through it a little bit.
And then I was like, and the Rockets rock, like into that.
Yeah.
And I just kept going. And oh my gosh, I walked off stage and I just wanted to burst into tears. And what's funny is I asked my husband, I'm like, did you hear that? He's like, hear what?
Oh my gosh.
And then his friend was like, something sounded a little funny in there, but I couldn't quite catch it. Anyway, so long story longer, I wanted to go back to like, when I get asked that question, are you afraid you're going to mess up the words? I realize that is that person's fear being projected onto me, because we all fear of messing up. And so I was so confident. And then I had this moment where I sang, I messed up the words. And I have to tell you guys, ever since then, it has been harder and harder to sing the national anthem in front of an audience. And I think I'm past it now because I've done it enough times after messing up to where I'm like, okay, I got it now. But I remember the first time after that happened, singing it again, I think it was at the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks, getting out in front of people. Thankfully there, you actually just look off at the field. You're not looking at the people. And I remember focusing so hard on the words and being so afraid and paralyzed almost the whole time. Like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Thankfully, I made it through and I didn't. But I think that this is I didn't mess up the words. But I think this is a really good example of in life, especially when we're younger, we start with this uninformed optimism where we're like, I can conquer the world. I can do anything I want. And then one thing goes wrong, and getting back up and trying again is the hardest thing ever. Even though we've done it so many times and it's gone well, it's almost like the older we get, the more we fear being perfect. And I often equate it to like the world. We feel like there's this pressure to be a certain way, show up a certain way, and be perfect, essentially.
Yeah.
And so really navigating those twists and turns of like, hey, that didn't go perfectly. However, that doesn't mean I shouldn't do it again.
That makes sense.
So now I forgot what the original question was, but...
Well, just, like when perfectionism shows up. So do you think, like, where do you think the perfectionism stems from? Is it then like life experiences? Or do you think it's almost a confidence thing? Or what makes people feel like they have to be perfect?
Well, I think it's our world, the faster paced and the more successful we look around and see other people. It's comparison a lot of the time of that person has this thing and that person's doing things so well. So there's almost this like chasing success element to it. But I think a lot of people too, again, if you mess up or something doesn't go well, we just shut down. Yeah. And I think, our society, we hear a lot about fight or flight, but there's a third, and it's freeze. And so fight is, you're trying to fight back. Flight is you're running away from something, which, that can also happen when you're trying to be perfect, is you just like avoid, right? But freeze is when you're in this true state of like, I just can't even make a decision or do the next thing because I'm so afraid of not living up to this standard that the world has for me. And so I saw a video on Instagram the other day. I was talking about at the end of your life, you want to look back and have just been courageous enough to make the decision. And that really stuck with me because I think sometimes in life when we're so afraid of making the perfect decision, we just don't make any decision. And there's really no such thing as a perfect decision. You just decide. And I think some of the most successful people out there, they fail a lot and they fail fast. And so really not being afraid of failure is something that's so much easier said than done, but just continuing to get back up, try again, and knowing that even if it doesn't go as planned, we focus so much on the outcome when sometimes the goal, it shouldn't necessarily be the outcome. It should be what we learn from the experience that we can then take into our next experience.
Yeah, that's so true. Perfectionism, it shows up in a lot of ways, and especially in businesses. I feel like it feels like it has more weight the higher you get up in your business, because then you have people below you that your decisions start to affect. So how do you think perfectionism really shows up for the higher leaders, and how do you kind of overcome getting to not let it affect you so much and be so worried about how it affects others too?
Yeah, I think probably the higher you get up, the more you worry about what people think of you almost, because there's more pressure. And so I see a lot of leaders who make it further up and make it to the top, and it's almost like they don't ever want anyone to know if they messed up. And so I think creating that layer of transparency and communication is really important. And sometimes, finding the humor in the mistakes can be really helpful on a team. And that maybe sounds too light or kind of out of left field, but I think a lot of leaders take their goals and their vision so seriously. And it's good to have high goals, high hopes for your team. But I think as a leader, at being willing sometimes to let your guard down and say, hey, like, this isn't going to be perfect. We don't know all the details or how this is going to work out, but just making sure that the higher up you get, you don't put up more of a wall, I think is really crucial, because your followers are going to respect you more if they realize you're a human. We're not robots.
True. Yeah.
If we were robots, sure, we should be expected to be perfect. Yeah. But we're not robots. So everyone's human, and as often as we can create that common humanity and that humanness amongst one another, I think that, failure just becomes something you almost celebrate. Like, hey, that didn't work. That was horrible, but let's move on.
Yeah.
We tried.
But I think it shows people below you too. Like if you show your failure to them and how you're going to overcome it, like next steps of like, okay, we failed, let's move on. That also shows them like, okay, I can fail and I can move on.
Being courageous enough to fail is probably one of the most courageous things you can do.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Better than regretting not trying something. Do you think perfectionism can ever be a strength?
Well, I thought about this one too. I think that, it's even biblical. Like we should work with diligence. And I've seen that out there. And I think we are designed as humans to want to do a good job. And I think that that is very important. I think that it can be a strength when executing. I always like to say, can you execute that with excellence? That's actually a question that I have people ask when they're evaluating, do I say yes to this thing or do I say no to this thing? It's, hey, if I'm going to say yes, can I execute it with excellence? And I think executing something with excellence doesn't mean that every single component of what you do is 100% perfect. But yeah, I think it can be a strength wanting to do a good job.
Yeah.
And I think if it's wanting to do a good job so that you are seen as perfect, I think that that's where it could be a downward spiral, because again, it all goes back to, are you wanting to do a good job because you are so worried about what other people think of you that you want them to think you're perfect?
Yeah.
And that's when I think can become detrimental. Yeah. So as humans, it's like when we're just in this constant comparison game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I almost think like perfectionism can be, correct me if I'm wrong, but like almost intertwined with detail oriented.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's like maybe a fine line there, but there's people like, I feel like Tara's very detail oriented.
Yeah.
Would you say sometimes?
Which I do ride that fine line of perfectionism sometimes. Yeah.
Which still I think it's kind of, as long as you don't cross it too far over.
Well, and I asked this question in one of our courses that we lead, and it's, when is it okay to give something 80%?
Good.
And like once in a while, it's okay. I used to, this is like a silly little example, but for some of our groups that we do, I used to make an agenda on a Word document, and there was no design, no color, just like pretty straightforward. And now I have since taken time in Canva and made it really pretty, right? Added a butterfly to the corner or whatever. Anyways, but like
I love that.
in the moment when I created it, I could have taken hours to make this agenda look beautiful, but I decided that that wasn't the priority at that time, because just getting the groups full with people in it, that's what I had to prioritize. So I think that's where, like, going back to our original question, like what helps you to flourish, it's really identifying, if I'm going to give something my all and make it really as close to perfect as possible, what should that thing be? Whereas like, what areas of my life can I give a little bit less? Like right now, you guys shared, I'm having my second child. Working out is not really something that I am perfect at.
Yeah.
Like I am going for some walks. I'm doing like short 15-minute, 20-minute bursts. Like if I were to use that as an example and say my perfect workout routine right now would be working out at least 5 days a week, at least 30 minutes a day. Like that would look perfect to me, and maybe even to this world's expectation of what my workout regimen should look like. That would mean I'm failing.
Yeah.
However, right now I'm not giving working out 100% in my life. So that's where all of this just kind of intertwines and weaves together.
Yeah. How do you kind of balance, like, as a person who is kind of I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I can be at times. How do you kind of choose what you want to give your time to more and what you want to give your time to less?
Well, from a very tactical standpoint, really, I love a good brain dump or download where you take all the things you're thinking about in your mind and you put them on paper, and you can decide, do I do it now? Do I schedule it for later? Do I ask for help and delegate it to someone, or do I delete it off my list? It's almost 4 Ds, but I think it's called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Name. I've learned it from somewhere else online, but yeah. So I think, like, in the very most tactical sense, the more often you can be putting things on paper and like circling, starring, that can really help identify like how much does this matter. Sometimes when I put things down on paper, there is something that's been swirling around in my head that I think I need to do. And the second I see it on paper, I'm like, actually, I don't even need to do that at all. And it's just this weird phenomenon that happens when we visually see it. And I know we're on, like you can definitely type this on a Word document, but to me, there's something about physically writing it out and just seeing it in your own handwriting that can help. Otherwise, I think like just taking some time to reflect. If you don't want to write things down, I think what our problem probably is as a society is that our world has outpaced our ability to keep up with it. And so the time that we have to actually intentionally pause, if we're not careful, that's never. Like I heard someone say, or I think I saw it on a social media post, is your only alone time when you're taking a shower? And I'm like, yeah, like that is actually the only time that I have to myself to think about things. And so if we are not proactively taking time to pause, we will just blow through our to-do list. We'll just run around town doing all the things, getting all the work done, whatever we need to do without pausing to even question, is this worth my time? And I get into that rut so often where I'll find myself even like checking an email that has an action item. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I start to do the action item. And I'm like, Kelsey, you have 10 other things that are way more important right now. And so I think that's where just like, even I paused myself in that moment. I was like, Kelsey, time out.
Yeah.
Before you go any further, is this really the best use of our time? So it really involves a lot of like self-monitoring, self-regulation.
And do you, like, I know obviously with You Flourish Company, you work a lot with women. For the speaking stuff though, you do both. What are you noticing more of the perfectionism and the burnout with women compared to men?
It's interesting because I have been blown away when I've had a mixed audience by the vulnerability of the men in the audience.
I love that.
I've been very surprised by how much they struggle with it too. I think men probably struggle a lot more with comparison and wanting to be seen as successful than they'd even be willing to admit. And I think a lot of that does come into to perfectionism as well. And there is pride for men in wanting to feel successful in the same way there is for women. But I do think that while I think men and women generally show up a little bit differently, I would say that women and men both probably struggle with the same thing.
Yeah,
a little
in
bit.
just different ways.
It just might show up differently. Like, I guess I'll give an example. So between my husband and I, like, I'm just the primary person for daycare. Like, I know what she needs, like when her week is that she needs to bring some snacks, like, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I just take that over. But like, if he's bringing her to school, I care more about like, does she have everything she needs at school? Like, there's certain things that I think just that maternal instinct, like as a mom, where that shows up differently from a perfectionism standpoint. Like, I want her to have all the perfect things at school, where as he's like, oh, she's safe, she's healthy. And I think that's probably just more of like a mom-dad dynamic. But I do think that there are things, I think women tend to put a little bit more pressure on themselves in general. But yeah, so I think there's some similarities and differences, but you'd be surprised by the things that men would say when it comes to stress and comparison and those.
Yeah.
I love that men are finally opening up about it, though. I feel like it always hasn't been like that. Like in the past, especially, it was men were very strong and didn't talk about their feelings. But it's nice that it's finally becoming more of a...
I've been surprised. You guys would be amazed by some of the...
So we were talking about perfectionism and how you kind of like sometimes you can get in a loop of it. And I, as someone who does ride that fine line, I feel like sometimes you cross over and sometimes you ride your fine line. Asking for help is so hard in those situations. What are some advice, or how would you help someone try and get out of that cycle?
That cycle of perfectionism.
Yeah,
it's so hard because I think that, like you said, we all ebb and flow. So sometimes we don't even know when we're in that cycle. I have found that while I'm not great at asking for help, some of my best next steps have come from being willing to let people come in and share ideas with me. And so that's where asking for help, even if you don't know exactly what you're going to ask for, and just saying, hey, I'm feeling a little stuck, I want your feedback on something, I think that can be so powerful. And so what it really stems from, though, before you can even ask for help, is building this, I call it your personal board of directors. And this, just like I said, flourishing evolves at different stages of life, or what that looks like evolves. I think your personal board of directors, that can also evolve throughout your life. And so the people that I would lean on before having my first child were often a little different than the people that I lean on for support now that I'm a working mom. And so in order to ask for help, it's identifying those people who truly share your values, are going to help you from a place of good and not just ego, because sometimes people just want to help out of ego versus out of that true like empathy. And so I like to do an exercise where I just brain dump all the people I know and kind of identify, like, based on what I'm trying to accomplish, are there people that I can really lean on for support, either with my business or personally? And I think it comes from spending time with people and connecting with the right people. And so if you're in this position of I'm just nervous to ask for help, maybe just asking someone that you trust to coffee, if you're feeling in a rut. I think, again, perfectionism, like I explained earlier, can have this freeze effect on us, where all of a sudden we've maybe had some momentum and then all of a sudden we're just feeling lethargic. One of the best ways I've found to get out of that lethargic stage, or that paralyzed by perfectionism stage, is to just talk to someone. And so I think there's different ways you can ask for help. I like the phrase, I'd like to pick your brain. That's kind of a fun one. Or if you were in my shoes, what would you do in this situation? So there's just many different ways to go about it.
Why is it so hard to ask for help?
It's so hard.
It is hard.
It's so hard.
Even though I love helping people.
Well, and do you guys feel like, is it harder to ask for help work-wise or personally? I'm curious.
Personally, I think for me.
I think so too, yeah.
I don't want to burden.
Yeah.
I'm glad you say that. I was curious which way you guys were going to take it, but I have this neighbor who is phenomenal. She asks for help all the time.
Yeah.
Like, we're gone this weekend. Are you up for taking our garbage out? The other week, this is hilarious. She asked if she ordered some fast food to their house and they had French fries and they didn't have any ketchup. She said, do you have any ketchup? And she brought over a paper plate.
I love that.
That's amazing. Squeeze a little bit of ketchup on this plate. And she has actually really inspired me, because having someone reach out and ask me for help has been so rewarding for us. And there's a book floating around out there, and I'm not even going to think of what it's titled, but I'll figure it out and I can give it to you guys to share. But they talk about, when was the last time you asked your neighbor for an egg?
It's the connection piece, I think, and just we miss out on that when you're too scared to ask for that help.
Yeah. So personally, I struggle with that a lot. And I think it's funny because I think for me, it comes from a sense of pride a little bit, not wanting to need help. But there was a Forbes study, and it talked about, I read this a while back, but it talked about how people who are more confident are more likely to ask for help, which was interesting. And it drew this big correlation between asking for help and confidence. And it also talked about how asking for help and like receiving help actually boosts your confidence too, which is just mind-boggling to me, because I always thought that asking for help feels like a sign of weakness, when in reality it's a sign of confidence.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like confidence is it's hard to build up, and once it gets built down or knocked down, it's hard to kind of get it back to that point. What would you say? Your neighbor obviously has it down. Like, that's kind of cool.
So cool.
We were out of sugar a couple of weeks ago, and I thought about going over there, but I don't have his number. So I was like, is it weird to knock on someone's door? People used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, why is that weird now that we're, I don't know if it's social media or just like the world environment that we live in now,
Or even
but it's just like
COVID. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just kind of
true.
lost
COVID did
that.
kind of make some of those things weird. Of like, I don't want to get you sick.
Think about how in other cultures, I mean, you've got multiple generations of families all living together, all supporting one another, all sharing with each other. If in Africa or in these other communities, if a family member passes away, all of your friends and family comes and like stays with you for an extended period of time.
I love that.
So when you're going through a tough time, people are actually in your home with you while you're grieving. And I heard that not too long ago, and I thought we have become such a disconnected society where through the good and the bad, we're like, I'm not just driving over. If I hear something bad happen to you, Tara, I'm not just driving over to your house and sitting with you. And and it's so interesting how our culture, the more connected we've become over technology, the more disconnected we've become in person.
It's a false sense of connectivity.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. I feel like it's different environments too. So kind of like go back to You Flourish. In all I'm sure you work in different kind of environments at businesses and people. What kind of environment have you seen people open the most up in?
When they feel safe, when they feel like they're safe. And so that's a whole nother topic, but that psychological safety, I mean, there are so many layers to that, but I think people feel safe when they feel heard. And so if you're in an environment where you don't feel like people listen to you, that can really negatively impact that feeling. And I mean, who wants to even ask for help if you feel like you're not being heard? You feel like you kind of have to go do it alone. So I think, just feeling like you're being heard and valued. And just, I think everyone wants to have a little bit of a seat at the table. So I even think about within an organization and the hierarchy, like, if the people at the bottom who are just entry level, if they don't feel like they have any seat at the table to offer up suggestions or ideas or opinions, they're going to have a really hard time growing or feeling like they can be vulnerable and open if every time they bring an idea up, it gets shut down or overlooked. And so I think it's a really delicate balance, and it's very challenging for leaders because they know what needs to happen as a business. So there are certain things that they have to shut down. But I think having that like very fluid communication style within a team, that can make people feel really safe, because at least even if their idea doesn't happen or get chosen, they feel like, hey, I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you. Here is why we can't go that route. But at least they feel like they can have a voice.
What do you recommend then for like those higher executives in the company? Like, do you work with them to have them be more open? And are you kind of coaching them on being more open to create that type of team?
So I haven't had the opportunity to do that type of work, but it sounds really fun. I think that, it's very hard. The higher up you get, the more priorities you have, the more stress you have. Generally speaking, life gets more complicated the longer you're in a role, because you have kids and additional responsibilities. And so it's this really skewed situation where, you get more and more pound on your shoulders. So the best analogy I could give is a lot of leaders, I think, find themselves with their doors shut a lot. And I haven't worked in corporate for a while, but that's just like maybe more of a metaphor of like a lot of leaders, because there's so much to do, such high priorities, the time that is needed to be taken to spend cultivating relationships with the team gets pushed aside. I've heard of teams that will do just quick pulse meetings, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes every day or once a week. I think the more, I'm not an advocate for just having meetings upon meetings upon meetings just to meet and talk about your day, but I do think that there is some value of being out, being present, and it actually might not take as much time as the perception is, but it does take effort and it does take time.
Absolutely.
How do you think that someone who is stuck in that mindset of, I need to do this alone, like I have a closed door, I know what needs to happen. How do you kind of help someone shift their mindset to, I don't need to do this alone, I can delegate to all these people? And how do you get them to, or like trust? Trust is a big thing. I feel like when you delegate, it's kind of hard.
I can't believe that I didn't mention trust earlier. You're hitting it on the head, Terry. I think building that trust, and that's what I think a lot of leaders struggle with too. I've struggled with that too, in terms of, I think I move pretty fast. So when I'm working with people, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's get that done. And then when it takes a while or it's not getting done, I just get nervous. I get anxious. And then I also am like, can I trust? And
right.
so I think, I think there's this level of building, like honestly, even clear deadlines for things between people can be helpful, but building trust is so hard and it only happens over time. And I think you had asked, how do you get a leader to like be more receptive to help? And I would say it just takes practice. I'm a great example of someone who I have a goal. I like to get after it. And like, I would prefer to actually just do it all myself. But I've been blown away. Our annual summit is probably the best example, but I have just been blown away by how, even though I want to just do it all, check off all the boxes, get it done, get all the marketing out, like having other people come in and help, even if they're just providing me ideas, the transformation is so much bigger and better than I could ever dream it to be. And so I think until you're in that position of having experienced the magic of what asking for help and really identifying the clear skill sets of the people you're asking it to, until you've seen that magic in real life, it's hard to want to let go of anything. But once you really pinpoint what people are good at and then give them those tasks that align with what they love to do, it can be incredible. I give a personal example. I love this one, and I always refer to it, but I get stressed out by giving gifts. Like coming up with the perfect gift for someone, that makes me really anxious. I'm like, are they going to like it? I just worry about that. And it's funny because one day my husband, Patrick, you guys both know Patrick, he comes home and he's like, how was your day? I said, you are never going to believe what I did today. He's like, what did you do? And I said, I made an Excel spreadsheet and it has birthday, wedding, funeral, baby, like for each.
I love that.
For each like occasion, like what our top favorite gifts or creative, cool gifts for people are. And like the hyperlink to it and everything. And he looked at me like I was crazy and he laughed and he goes, does giving gifts stress you out? And I said, yes, it stresses me out so much. And he's like, Kelsey, I love coming up with creative gifts for people. And I about fell onto the floor. So he's like, do you want me to help more with this for our family? I'm like, yes, please.
Please. Here's my spreadsheet.
Yes. But I think that happens so often in business where we continue to take things on. We don't ask for help. And then all of a sudden we're working, for me, it would be working in an Excel spreadsheet and we want to poke our eyes out. And we think if I were to ever delegate this or ask someone else to do this, they would be so upset because they would think this is a terrible task. When in reality, Tara, you might love that task. Like someone who's detail driven or like likes details, but until we ask the right questions and get to know our team, we never know what their strengths are. So if we ask someone for help and it's not something that maybe energizes them, or if we're just telling them to do something, it's going to go poorly. But if we ask someone for help and it's right in alignment with what they love to do, and you just see them light up, they're going to go and they're going to probably end up doing an even better job than you would. And so I think that's just really important to recognize too, is that we all think that we're the norm and the things that I love, you probably love too, but that's just not the case. So you're actually giving a gift sometimes by asking for help, because that person is going to feel needed and they're going to probably feel excited to be able to try something new and take something on. That was a tangent.
That was so well put.
Yeah, but that was very well put.
I really liked it. And I liked the real life story too. That's amazing. Okay, so if someone's listening today and they're feeling that burnout and that perfectionism, and they are maybe nervous to ask for help, what is one thing that you would challenge them to do after this episode to maybe get out of that cycle a little bit?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things is the eat the frog. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah.
Yes. No, I don't think I have. I don't know why I said yes. Sorry.
The frog. Yes. So there's this guy, I think it's Brian Tracy, I think is his name. He's an author. Yes. He wrote a book and there's a short video. I know where to find it. So if you guys reach out,
You might have to send it to me.
send you the video. It's a silly concept, but it talks about if the worst thing you do in the morning is eat a live frog, your day can only go up from there. It's this concept of, and I've taught this to many teams because I just think it's so valuable, and it becomes common language within their team where they're like, okay, I'm going to go eat the frog now. But it's really recognizing like, what is the thing I'm dreading most or the thing that I'm afraid of the most? Because I find that if I do something that scares me, or if I force myself to get outside of my comfort zone, and often for me, it's making a phone call to someone. It's a communication piece. I'm nervous to talk to this person about this thing, but I just have to do it. So if I start my day with that, it gives momentum, because nothing is more fatiguing than an incomplete task. And oftentimes I find myself feeling the most burned out when there is something that I know I need to get done, and it's
And it's just like, it's kind of rolling around in the back of your head, like, oh, I still have to do that today.
Yeah. And so, like, I guess the only other example I'm thinking of right off the top of my head too is I just did it yesterday. I went on social media. You guys might have seen it. I had nothing to say. I had absolutely nothing to say, but I have not just gone on social media and done a video in like 3 months. And I have been told, like, because of your brand, like, people want to hear from you, like, get online, like,
your face,
like, talk, say something. But I literally, the longer I've gone without doing it, the more I'm like, I don't even know where the heck to start or what to say. Anyways, long story longer, yesterday I just posted, and it gave me so much energy because it was something that I didn't want to do because I'm like feeling I was lacking confidence. But because I did it, it actually made me feel better. And so that has nothing to do with another hard project that has been hanging over my head that I haven't done yet. But it was just putting myself out there in a different way to give me that boost, that small win. So I think if I were to summarize it, think about how you can have one small win today. You're feeling burnt out, go for a walk. Like that might be your one small win, is getting some physical movement. Or, you know, if there's something you're dreading to do at work, do that first, and that will actually give you more momentum. And I know it's easier said than done, but if we're met with resistance every day, and it's our it's self-resistance. Like every day we're like, oh, I don't want to do that thing. And so if we just wake up and know, hey, how am I not going to be resistant to myself today? And we just move or act, it'll actually give us momentum.
It's draining to not do it.
It's draining to not do the thing. It's just weird.
I definitely resonate with that. And sometimes when I'm on a walk is when I will do phone calls is not my favorite thing either, to be honest. And I do talk on the phone a lot. Alyssa knows this.
I'll call her and she doesn't answer. So now we started doing the voice notes.
Yeah, we do a lot of voice notes.
I should send you my voice notes too.
Oh, yes. But on walks, that's when I get my motivation is I'm like, okay, if I go on a walk, I'll just respond to all of these messages and all these phone calls while I'm on a walk. And sometimes I'm out of breath when I'm on the phone, but I don't care.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I always joke that I come up with my best ideas when I'm working out or moving on a walk, or when I'm sitting on an airplane. It's like
you have nothing else to do.
Yeah, you have nothing else to do other than to just reflect, think, and it goes back to that importance of a pause and taking time for yourself. And sometimes we think it's going to be a waste of time, but taking time to take care of yourself is actually one of the best ways you can use your time, because you'll just show up that much better.
Yeah.
The next time.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so I'm going to go into one of your favorite quotes.
Oh,
so one of your favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou. And it says, at the end of the day, people who won't remember what you said or did, they will remember how you made them feel. Can you tell us what this means to you?
I'm an extrovert. I like to talk. My first long-term job out of college was as a recruiter, and I thought, this is perfect. I get to be everyone's new best friend and try to recruit them to a job, and I get to talk to a lot of people. And what I really learned is I actually had to train my jaw to stay shut because I was interviewing people. And what's interesting about that time in my life is I really appreciated what it taught me, because it taught me the importance of listening. And so we've already kind of talked about the importance of feeling heard, but I think as an extrovert, I have this strong fear that because I love talking and sharing, and you guys shared earlier, I like being on stage.
Yeah.
That that will come from a place of ego instead of just a place of excitement, which is what it really is. And so I worked really hard to show up, yes, on stage with confidence, but also when I'm having one-on-one conversations to genuinely care about people and make them feel seen, make them feel heard. And I think, again, easier said than done, but there's nothing worse than being in a room and feeling like you don't belong there. And I just think that, at the end of the day, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so if I can even make one person feel seen, that really, really matters to me.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And sometimes the power of making someone feel heard is just not saying anything at all and letting them get it out. I think sometimes I even need that reminder of, because I like talking, and I just, you get in such a momentum of talking that you're like, okay, you haven't said a word in a while, and I'm so sorry. Your turn. And they're like, okay, they just feel seen.
It's almost a game I play with myself. Like, how can I ask so many questions, and and it's just become natural now. It's secondhand, and I'm not perfect at it by any means, but just really making sure that it's not all about me when I'm with people. And, sometimes I like to have fun and tell a story, get all excited about something. And so it's not that it's bad to talk at people sometimes, but I just feel like I never want someone to feel like I thought I was better or more important than they were.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really like that. Well, another thing with our podcast is, we're really trying to balance. I don't always like the word balance, but life at home and life at work, and you have your own company, and now you're going to have baby number 2. So how are you doing well with, again, I don't like the word balance, but balancing it all and making sure that you're giving enough to your company and to your home life and your kids and your husband?
Well, I would say the last year has been really an evolution for me, because I'll be celebrating 5 years of being off on my own coming up on
Congratulations.
April 15th, tax day. That's my anniversary date that I use.
Hey, easy to remember.
But I, oh my gosh, where was I going to go with that? Well, it's been an evolution. And I feel like in the last year, there have been a lot of things that I have let go of. And it's interesting because the fear as a business owner is, if you say no to certain things, that generally means less income. And for me, a feeling of being less successful if I have less things on my plate that I may be doing better. But that was so important to me to hone in. And so I think actually taking things off my plate has helped me to not only generate more revenue and more excitement within the things that I am working on, but it's allowing me more time with my family. And so I would say right now, some weeks I work a full week, but some weeks I take a Friday and spend it with my daughter. And it's really been fun because I feel like I'm getting into this new season where I kind of can do both well. And I've never felt that way before. But I think, again, I would attribute it to saying no to some stuff that, yes, I enjoy. I enjoy these things. They're fun, but they don't align with what I'm actually working on in my business to have as my niche. So,
well, and one thing that I learned from you is when you're saying no to something, then you're saying yes to something else.
Well, and you probably feel this way in your businesses, but if you're doing too many different things, your brain is flip-flopping.
Yeah.
And so I found myself feeling extremely fatigued because each different project or consulting gig or speaking gig or thing that I was doing used a totally different part of my brain. And so what I'm in the now the space that I'm in, I'm like, okay, I have 3 different programs, Summit, 6-week program, my Flourish groups, and then I'm doing some speaking. Most of my speaking is only women, occasionally men and women, but just really niching down and getting clear. And so now I just have checklists, and it's I'm not, yes, I'm trying to improve what I'm doing, but I'm not doing all of these extra things that I would take on out of a scarcity mindset, because it's if I say no to that thing, even though it's not quite what I do, I'm not going to make that money. It's been really, really valuable to just narrow in. And it's funny because I've been hearing that for the last 5 years and I've just been afraid to do it. And now that I'm doing it, I'm like, all these people were right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that praise.
It's so true though. Like in the beginning, you're in such even in real estate, you're in such like yes. You feel like, when's my next paycheck going to come? You don't know. So you're willing to take any client on, any deal. And then as you start to establish your business, then you can really hone in on like, I've turned away clients because I just don't think we're a good fit. You can turn away people because you don't think it's a good opportunity. And it might be a good opportunity, but there's better opportunities that better fit you. And I think that's kind of what we're all striving for in life, is like to find our alignment and what we align with the best, I think.
Well, and I like how you shared that, because too, like, I want to just acknowledge that because I took on some different things, like that helped me really figure out what I enjoyed. So it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would just encourage anyone, the sooner you can get clear on who do you really want to work with, what do you really want your niche to be, I think the better, because it's just very freeing to be able to say no, even if it's a good income opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think we go through different seasons of life too, of like, that might be a good opportunity. And for this season of life, like during winter when you don't really have a lot going on, but in summer when you're busy and you want to do more lake stuff, then your kind of your opportunities and what you're aligned with changes a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's the fear of, if you say no this time, like, will it come back? I just got asked to sing for the Frozen Four or the hockey tournament in town. It was my dad's birthday weekend, and I had already said I was going to visit him, and so I turned it down, which felt so weird because 10 years ago, it's like you say yes to everything you can because you're just taking all the opportunity. And I think, it's just interesting how the older you get and the more you evolve, the more you realize what really matters. And I don't have the same fear now. I'm like, oh, they'll ask me again. And if they don't, that's not my part of God's plan for my life. So I think just trusting a little bit more that your yeses and nos are in alignment with what you need in the moment.
Yeah. Trusting that gut feeling of where you feel aligned at.
At the time, in the season.
Yeah.
Everything's a season.
It is.
Like,
so
it's
true.
all a season.
Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you, Kelsey, for coming here today. We always love talking with you. And we're always going to end with the same question. So what does living well mean to you?
I love that question. So for me, I think about it professionally and personally. Professionally, I used to want to just reach the masses. Like, I want to impact as many people as I can. But I think that at the end of my life, I will look back and feel like I have lived a good life if I have been more intentional with the relationships that I have and that I'm building. And so I think of it as more of a quality over quantity type of situation where, yes, I would still love to reach a lot of people, impact a lot of people. However, I think doing it really intentionally and diligently and not losing sight of who I should be impacting right now. And if I impact even just one person and their life has changed, that would feel like I was living well professionally. Personally, I think I just always want to be there for my family. That's really, really important to me. I want to be there when my daughter gets off the school bus. There's certain things that I just think I don't want to ever look back on my life and say, I wish I would have spent more time with Patrick or June or even my parents. Like, I think just, taking time to call my mom, taking time to call my sister, who I don't actually talk to a lot. Like, I'm going to call her tonight now. Just like taking time to pause and actually talk to people I care about, because it's so easy to get focused in on goals that it's so easy to forget to pause and talk to people that matter. And so I think that when I look at like my life now personally, my husband is very spontaneous and I'm not always as spontaneous. I'm a little bit rigid. I'm like, if I have this thing scheduled on this day, it's going to happen. And so I think what I can probably do to work towards living better so that I'm living well is being a little bit more flexible. Yeah. Someone once told me flexibility is the key to life. And so that has just stuck with me. And just flexibility is so important. And I even think about, like, I had no idea what I was getting into having a child and they get sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, January, February, next year, I'm probably going to build some buffer time in my calendar. But like there was a day where I think I had one meeting and my daughter was sick and I'm like, I'm just going to take the day. But I think that gives me anxiety. So again, I'm really working towards being more flexible so that I can be there for my family and friends when they need me.
Oh,
So
I love that.
I love that. And the word intentional. I always love the word intentional.
I know. That's a good word.
Yeah, it is.
So intentional, professionally and personally and flexible.
Yeah. Intentionally flexible.
Yes, intentionally flexible and just allowing things to unfold, because it's like, I think that in life we can miss out on really important and big things if we're not willing to pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's so true.
Intentionally flexible. There we go.
I love it.
Amazing. Well, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Kelsey.
So fun. It's always so great talking to you.
This is too fun. Let's do it again.
Yes, please.